There's a kind of transformation that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or perfect timing. It often begins in chaos, in a season where everything falls apart, where your old coping mechanisms stop working, where your favorite distractions lose flavor, where the version of you that once worked starts to feel like a costume, and you try to explain it, but the words don't land. Because how do you explain that you're still functioning, but no longer aligned? That you're still smiling, but something inside you has gone eerily silent? This is what Carl Jung would call a soul event, not a breakdown, a breakthrough, but not the kind the world celebrates, the kind that humbles you, that empties you, that drags you inward and whispers, everything you've been chasing was never the point. This is the soul rising, not floating upward, but descending deeper into your body, into your shadow, into your forgotten knowing. And because no one warned you, you start to wonder if something's wrong, but nothing is wrong. Something sacred is waking up. Sign 1. Nothing external satisfies you anymore. You used to be able to distract yourself, scroll, shop, drink, flirt, work, perform. There was a time when a little attention, a little approval, a little dopamine was enough to silence the ache. But now, none of it works. You get what you thought you wanted, and feel nothing. You meet the goal, and it rings hollow. You smile in the photos, and feel strangely disconnected from the person in them. You think you're becoming numb, but what's really happening is deeper than that. You're detoxing. Your soul is pulling back from the illusions you once relied on to keep you asleep. Carl Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." But you're not avoiding anymore. You're seeing through the veil. The job title doesn't fulfill you. The relationship doesn't complete you. The affirmation doesn't land because you've outgrown the life that was built to please your ego. And your soul is ready for more, not more things, more truth. Sign 2. You start noticing patterns you used to call fate. You start hearing yourself mid-sentence, realizing, wait, I've said this before, I've felt this before. This is the same loop with a different face. The names change, the scenery shifts, but the pain feels familiar, and suddenly it clicks. This isn't random, it's a pattern, a psychic repetition, and what you used to call fate was actually your unconscious playing out the same story until you were ready to choose differently. This is Jung's core insight. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is the moment you stop blaming bad luck. You stop waiting for signs. You stop outsourcing your healing to other people. You start recognizing the pattern isn't here to punish you. It's here to wake you up to what still needs to be integrated, to what still hasn't been claimed, to the part of you that still believes you deserve less than freedom. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's how you know your soul is rising. Sign 3. You begin to grieve old versions of yourself. You find yourself crying for no reason, not because of heartbreak, but because something is leaving you. Some version of yourself, the one who always said yes, the one who smiled to stay safe, the one who betrayed their own needs just to feel wanted, is slowly dying. And grief shows up, not the grief of losing someone else, the grief of finally saying goodbye to who you had to be in order to survive. Carl Jung didn't describe healing as becoming more. He saw it as becoming again, a return, not to childhood, but to the self before distortion. Before you learned that love had to be earned through perfection or sacrifice, and now that self you became out of necessity is unraveling. You might feel sad, you might feel scared, you might feel like you're disappearing, but you're not. You're just letting go of who you never truly were. Sign 4. Silence feels like home. There was a time when you couldn't be alone. You needed noise, movement, distraction, anything to keep you from hearing your own thoughts. But now, you crave quiet, not because you're isolating, but because you're integrating. You start turning down invitations that once fed your ego. You start logging off from conversations that once kept you relevant. You start finding peace in moments where there is nothing, no urgency, no chaos, no narrative, just space. And in that space you realize the silence doesn't scare you anymore. It welcomes you. It holds you. It listens without needing to fix. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And sometimes, who you truly are can only be heard in the quiet. Sign 5th, you start questioning everything you were taught. The stories you inherited about love, success, identity, truth begin to feel strange. You hear yourself saying things you were raised to believe, and something in you pauses. Is this even mine? Do I really believe this? Or was I just trying to belong? You start to see how many of your thoughts were never your own, just echoes of someone else's fear, their limitation, their conditioning passed down as tradition. This questioning is not rebellion. It's reclamation. You are reclaiming the authority of your own mind. You are no longer hypnotized by the narratives that kept you small. And no, it doesn't make you disloyal. It makes you conscious. Because to Jung, awakening wasn't about acquiring knowledge. It was about seeing clearly. And clarity by nature destroys illusion. Sign 6th, your body becomes your guide. Your body starts speaking louder than your thoughts. It tightens around people who drain you. It softens around truth. It shakes when something needs to be released. It glows when you're on the right path. You stop overriding your gut just to be polite. You stop forcing your energy just to meet expectations. You begin to realize your nervous system knows before your mind catches up. Jung believed that the psyche speaks in symbols, in dreams, in somatic clues. And when your soul rises, your body becomes the altar, the instrument, the messenger. It no longer lets you lie to yourself. You can't fake alignment, not in a body that's finally been given permission to feel. Sign 7th, you feel called to let go of what you can't explain. There are things that don't make sense to leave behind. The relationship isn't bad. The job isn't toxic. The plan isn't failing. And yet, you feel the pull. The inner tug toward release, toward empty space, toward surrender without reason. You may try to explain it to people. You may try to explain it to yourself. But here's the truth. Your soul doesn't need justification to grow. It only needs your willingness to follow the nudge. Carl Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Letting go can hurt, not because you're wrong, but because you're becoming right with yourself. You are not walking away from life. You are walking back to it, on your terms." Sign 8th, you start feeling grief for the world. Not just your own pain, but the pain of others, of the collective, of the systems we've all silently accepted. You cry for people you've never met. You ache for futures you won't live to see. You feel everything more deeply, not because you're too sensitive, but because you're becoming more alive. This kind of grief isn't depression. It's awareness. It's your soul remembering that we're all entangled and that healing isn't personal. It's planetary. Jung called this the collective unconscious, a shared field of psyche, where trauma, history, and memory live beneath the surface. When your soul begins to rise, you start feeling the ripples of this field, not to burden you, but to initiate you into compassion without collapse. You begin to hold space, not just for your own story, but for the story of us all. Sign 9th, you begin to remember who you are. This is the most quiet, most sacred sign of all. There's no celebration, no confetti, no checklist, just a subtle shift. You look in the mirror, and something behind your eyes feels familiar, like coming home to someone you used to know before the world told you to forget. You feel less urgency to prove, less hunger to perform, less need to be seen by those who never learned how to see themselves. You remember that love is not something to earn, peace is not something to chase, and healing is not something to finish. It's a rhythm, a spiral, a return. Carl Jung didn't ask us to become someone else. He asked us to remember who we were before we split ourselves into roles. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. And now, you are awakening, not because you climbed higher, but because you finally sank deeper into your truth. into your body, into your essence. Your soul isn't ascending, it's rooting, it's remembering, and that is how you rise. If something deep inside you stirred while listening to this, don't scroll past it. This isn't just another video. It's a reflection, a transmission, a message that came not by accident, but by resonance. Carl Jung reminded us that we meet ourselves over and over again, often in the most unexpected places. Maybe this was one of those moments, a mirror, a pause, a quiet opening into who you've always been beneath the noise. If your soul feels seen here, write it. I let go. I align. I remember, not for attention, not for likes, but to speak directly to your own subconscious. Like this video, not for validation, but to embody the truth you just heard. Subscribe, not because you need more content, but because you're ready for deeper clarity, deeper healing, and deeper return. This isn't just a channel, it's a remembering space, a place where those who are done performing finally come home to themselves. And if you know someone who's still chasing everything except themselves, share this with them. Because as Jung said, those who look outside dream, those who look inside awaken. And maybe, just maybe, this is your awakening. In a culture that glorifies doing, stillness is rebellion. In a world addicted to chasing, remembering is power. So pause, breathe, and trust this. You were never missing anything. You were only ever meant to return.